Well, U.S. President Donald Trump is set to complete his first 100 days in office this week, on April the 29th, after taking office on January the 20th. Trump's presidency has been nothing but controversial. While the federal courts halted his proposed travel ban, his military operations in Afghanistan and Syria were also questioned. Here's more on the story.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Donald Trump's presidency got off to a controversial start. The day after his inauguration saw millions of people across the US protest against his policies, while his press secretary got into a fight with the media over the size of the inauguration crowds, setting a lasting tone of confrontation. Trump kicked off his agenda with a flurry of executive orders. He pulled the US out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. He weakened environmental protections and took aim at women's health groups that perform abortions. But his biggest early move was to ban travel to the US from several Muslim-majority countries. The move sparked travel chaos and immediate protests.
Just because the president does something doesn't make it the law, it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it legal.
Federal courts struck down the ban and a later revised version. The question of Russian influence in Trump's election has loomed large. Director James Comey announced the FBI is investigating whether members of Trump's team worked with Russia, claims that Trump has dismissed as fake news. His national security advisor was forced to step down after lying about contact he'd had with the Russian ambassador. His most trusted advisors include the controversial alt-right figure Steve Bannon, as well as his daughter Ivanka and her husband Jared Kushner, sparking allegations of nepotism.
Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, both of whom are now formal White House advisors with pretty hefty portfolios and profiles. They're worth $725 million roughly. Well, how do the policies that they are weighing in on, how does that affect their businesses?
The first major piece of legislation that Trump tried to pass was to repeal and replace the Obamacare health law, something Republicans have long called for. Nevertheless, internal party divisions meant the reform failed, with more right-wing Republicans refusing to back the plan.
I think the health care reform debacle has hurt him politically on Capitol Hill. It's harder also for them to do tax reform. So I think that has, if he can't get that done, there's a question about, well, what can he get done?
On the international stage, Trump has proven unpredictable. Following North Korean missile tests, he's called the country a problem that the US will solve with or without help from China. After a chemical weapons attack which the US attributes to the Syrian regime, Trump went against his own advice to Barack Obama and launched a military strike. The move saw relations with Russia fall to what Trump called an all-time low. Other policy reversals have seen him decide China is not, in fact, a currency manipulator and that NATO is still useful.
I said it was obsolete. It's no longer obsolete.
Trump has tried to implement some key campaign promises, but major achievements are still lacking. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Trump himself makes great claims for his first months in office.
No administration has accomplished more in the first 90 days.
So far, the only major result he can claim is the confirmation of conservative judge Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, which will shape its rulings for years to come. Trump and his supporters will hope that after a difficult start, much more change is on the way.